Coogs House. All right. Marcus Sasser, basketball royalty, Cougar, winner, and now record holder.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougs, daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach, Parker Ainsworth, here to break down all things Cougs. If you're a U of H fan or just a hater who can step by, please be sure to subscribe down below. That we get the latest on the Cougs in your newsfeed each and every day. Remember, we like to get you the Cougs news first thing in the morning. Make sure you check us out first thing every day. We appreciate you making us your first listen of the day. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Good to see you again. We're giving away that Galen Robinson themed jacket. We're approaching 750 subscribers. And when we get there, some lucky commenter will get it. So make sure you hit subscribe so we get there and comment or like the videos or do both, preferably, so we know that you're in the contest. If after all of this, you can't think of anything to say about the Wichita State Shocker victory, or the victory over the Wichita State Shockers, or Marcus Sasser, or any of the others from senior night, tell us what letter is silent in the word sent. All right, so what I want to do here is I want to talk some about Marcus Sasser in the first segment. He is not the only senior, but he did have a very special senior night. The second segment, I want to recap some more about the game. Again, Houston wins 83-66, but it's a little bit deeper than that. And then the third season, I want to kind of continue to look forward some from this big American Athletic Conference victory. And I want to make sure that we all take a moment to look at like what exactly let's say what exactly happened. But first, make sure we tell you guys that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We love our partners, FanDuel. More on that later. But they seem to like the Cougs as well. All right, so let's talk some about Marcus Sasser's senior night. Now, statistically speaking, he did have a classic Marcus Sasser dominates the box score kind of night. Filled up the stat sheet with 22 points, 3 of 7 from behind the arc, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. He was just all over the floor tonight. One of those steals, I just like he sneaks up behind, like Wichita State breaks down the court. It's a 3-on-2, and he comes in from the line, just like steals the ball and just like did a full U-turn, went down the other direction for a classic Sasser, his own fast break. It's so entertaining to watch him play because he plays so hard. I should point out, we mentioned he's a record holder and that he shot 3 of 7 from 3, a record that he is now tied for the lead in and will soon be a record holder on his own right in. Is he now is tied for the all-time three-pointers made in Houston Cougar basketball history. We all know when he came in as a freshman, as pudgy as Kelvin Sampson might have called him a few years back, we all know that he could shoot. We knew he could shoot. Again, basketball royalty. He did come from a family of his uncles played at SMU and Texas Tech, and then in the NBA. His father also played college basketball. He's got an uncle that coaches in South Dallas. Like, they all have this basketball gene in them. But also, he's worked his way to this point. And last spring, he would have, if he continued it down the draft path, would have been at very least drafted, probably first round, like late first round draft pick in the NBA draft. And in the loaded 2023 draft, he still projects to be a like middle to like latter third of the first round, if not higher by the end of March. All right, but on the game as a whole, worth pointing out, there were a couple moments that stick out. I was like, oh man, that's the last time Marcus does that in the Fertitta Center. But I think I want to say most fun, but truthfully, it was like the most heartwarming was as he's coming out for senior night to get his jersey and have his moment with his family at midcourt before the game. Kelvin Sampson's usually very stoic, and he was very, very quick to be emotional. He was teary-eyed, lip was quivering the entire thing. And so as, that was surprising to me to see happen. I have to say that, like, that is how much Marcus's growth has meant to this program. We're going to talk later, and we'll talk throughout March and all offseason about how this program has rapidly grown and the exponential growth of the Kelvin Sampson program. But on the whole, it rests on guys like Galen Robinson, Corey Davis, Quentin Grimes, and Marcus Sasser. Guys like that coming back to the program are a big, big part of it. Now, the post-game joke as they're announcing some of these records that Marcus Sasser earned was that Kelvin Sampson is going to call the NCAA on Friday. So I guess as you're listening to this, and ask them if he can get that COVID year, get another COVID year back out of Sass. Now, I will say that Sasser was tremendous in this game. I don't know any like particular moment that I could say like, oh my, like he had a couple of threes. They were mostly kick out kind of opportunities. Whenever he drove in the paint, he got swarmed, but he did have some very creative and crafty finishes on the break, including one on a secondary break where I think he honestly, his like slow down Euro step, legitimately like guys just ran past him. They weren't ready for him to slow down and kind of go. We talk a lot about guys and go from like first gear to fourth gear. He went from fourth gear back to first gear in a way that's really, really impressive. But ultimately, with the win, the other record Marcus Sasser now has is he has tied Fabian White. You remember Fabian from not that long ago. He has tied Fabian White for the best winning record at the Fertitta Center at 49-4. So when we talk about like guys that built this program, he's literally the winningest guy to play in the building, right? Marcus Sasser is that guy. He will continue to be that guy on Sunday against Memphis. He will continue to be that guy throughout the American Athletic Conference Tournament and March Madness. I was just his backcourt dynamics with Jamal Shead were tremendous on this game. Sasser had 22, Jamal Shead had 25. Jamal Shead shot 4 of 8 from 3-point line because whenever Sasser got in the lane, they collapsed on him. He had someone to kick out to, and that certainly added up to those 4 assists. I don't think it was exactly 4 assists to 4 made threes, but it certainly felt like it in the latter third of the basketball game. Can't say enough about Marcus Sasser. Cannot say enough about the impact he's had on the program. But I will say that there are a lot of kids. It might be NIL money now. That's part of it. But there are a lot of kids in the Fertitta Center and around the state of Houston and around the state of Texas because of Sasser's ties to Dallas that are wearing red and white number 0 T-shirts. Shout out to Lewis, the guy we talked to many episodes ago about his designs. But T-shirts, jerseys. I saw a backpack the other day. I mean, people like Sasser. People want to be like Sasser. His tenacity on both ends of the floor and his grit and, frankly, how much fun it is to watch him play basketball because of those things make people want to be like him. And if Houston can continue to build this program, we'll talk at a later date how much I want to bring guys like Jarace Walker in every year, the 5-stars, the one and done. Like, that's a fun way to do it too. But you're going to always need the Sassers of the world. Just cannot say enough about what he did both on Thursday night and in building this program as a whole. So shout out to Sass for the great senior night and the performance, the standing ovation as he exited the court for the final time, the standing ovation as he got his record-setting basketballs. He got a little Jordan basketball with the white patch on the front, so it had the listing of whatever record that was. He got one for each of those on Thursday. And the overwhelming cheers as he was cutting down the nets in the Fertitta for winning the regular season American Athletic Conference. Even if you put all 3 together, I don't know if it's quite enough for what he meant to this program, what he means to this program moving forward. So thank you, Marcus. Thank you to all the seniors, Reggie Chaney, the sacrifices he made in coming to Houston when he could have gone a lot of places. Darius Bowser, again, did not have to come to a place to be a practice player. That I cannot stress that enough. He had job offers. He had other college basketball offers. He could have done other things and decided to come be a part of a culture and program. So to all the seniors, thank you very much on your senior night. Obviously, there's a lot of work left to do this season. We're not done. But man, oh man, if we're going to spend the night celebrating those guys, they got a lot of things to celebrate. Speaking of things to celebrate, you could be celebrating with your winnings from FanDuel. Our buddies over at FanDuel are the #1 sportsbook in America, and we are excited to have them in our corner because it's the midway point in the NBA season, and it's the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet everything the money line to point scores and threes drained. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that they don't quite have anything lined up for Sunday in our matchup with Memphis yet. But what I will say is if you're interested in putting bets together, Houston is the favorite to reach the Final Four at plus 100. That means you put down, you bet 100, get 100, right? Bet or get 100 more. And they are the favorite to win the whole thing at plus 600. Now, I'm not a mathematician, But I do coach basketball and I've watched basketball for the 31 years I've been on Earth. And I will tell you for free that to win the championship, you do have to also get to the Final Four. So I'm thinking if you're putting bets together in some sort of a parlay, find some way to get those kind of things on the same ticket. FanDuel does let you combine your bets for an even bigger payout with a same game parlay. Don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/locked on. That's FanDuel.com/locked on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, in the second segment, now that I've talked a lot about how much I'm going to miss some of these guys, let's talk some about how the game actually went. Because frankly, part of me wants to say go back and watch the episode from the last time Houston played Wichita State. It was a very, very similar basketball game. This one finished at a 17-point win, and it was as nail-biting a 17-point win as you could realistically have, right? It was a 6-point game with 5.5 minutes left. And then suddenly it was a 14-point game with 2 minutes and 6 seconds left. That stretch there of basketball is what makes everyone think Houston's got a real shot to win the whole thing. And frankly, it's what makes me agree with them. That 3-minute stretch of basketball in the latter fourth of the game, right? We don't play quarters in college basketball. You follow me? Was when Houston started to run away with things. There was Jarace Walker steals and dunks. There were made threes by Jamal Shead and Marcus Sasser. There were these kind of gut punches down the stretch there that really, really embodied like why Houston Cougar basketball is what it is. And they're in a boxing fight in the middle of the ring, and as they're landing some blows, they're just walking that guy back to the ropes, right? That's what they're doing with these kind of big dagger type plays in that 3-minute stretch to stretch this to a 17-point win. Worth pointing out that Wichita State is I don't want to say hard matchup for Houston. They won both games. This one by 17, the first one by 9, but they made a buzzer beater, so it was really 11, or felt like 11. What I will say, though, is that they are a tough matchup for Houston because they're one of the few teams that matches Houston physicality. Houston's played teams that match them athletically, and the Virginias or the Alabamas. I'd argue the Oregons, and frankly, the sneaky one I say here is the Kent States of the world that match them up with them athletically, right? I'm not saying that they're always been the fastest team on the floor. There are games that they are, but that's not where Wichita State offers a tough matchup. The physicality of guys like Rojas or Poto, their two bigs, that was incredibly influential in how this game went and why this game was so close for so long. The other thing that happened here was their guard, the same guy, if you remember from when we talked about, you're nodding your head already, you remember what I'm talking about, when on his media availability, Kelvin Sampson said he was worried about Craig Porter. That was like the guy he was seeing in the last 6 games that like, oh, he's playing really, really well for them. He came out and shot the lights out to start the game, making tough shots. Tremont Mark dripped all over him. Every time he drives in the lane, he gets arms all over him too. And he ended up with 17 points in 34 minutes. And I'm telling you right now that doesn't tell the full story because he had 14 at half, right? The truth is that in the second half, he got in his own foul trouble. Tremont Mark got on his head, and Houston kind of adjusted what they were doing on the backside to help out, right? Helping off of different guys and those kind of things really, really kind of like changed the game up. But man, oh man, did he make some tough shots en route to that 17 points. And I almost want to give him caps off kind of moment. But really, that's why this game was so close for so long. I had people tweeting like, this is Houston. This is like, yes, that guy's really, are you watching the game? That guy's making really crazy, difficult shots with defenders' arms all up in his grill. And it didn't seem to matter to Porter. So hats off to him, credit to him, etc. But I will say, like, wasn't quite enough. The other thing that happened in this game that made Wichita State play it so close for so long, and they came back down to earth. I don't have what their stat would have been at like 10 minutes left in the second half or whatever. But Wichita State shot 50% from 3. On the season, they're shooting 35% from 3. Now, Houston's adjustments over the course of the game became to run them off of the 3-point line, right? They went 6 of 12 from 3, so it's not like they shot a ton of them. But in running them off the 3-point line, they didn't necessarily deter them from making shots. 50% from 3, had it been a couple less threes in the first half, might have made it feel like it wasn't so crazy, because as crazy as that shot making was from Porter, and as high percentages of threes were in the first half, what you really had was Houston winning at halftime, right? Like, it was still, after all of that, Houston was up 2 at halftime. I mean, so it felt like one of those games like, God, come on, man. Let's start off the game right. Offensively, Houston struggled at times against the zone. We've talked in the past that sometimes the best way to beat the zone is to shoot over the top of it. And Houston didn't shoot that well over the top of it to start. Jamal Shead got hot later. Marcus Sasser did his thing, but then we're going to lose him in the zone. Truthfully, Tremont Mark played excellently in a lot of ways, but him going 0 for 3 kind of made the zone feel like it was 0 for 3 from the three-point line, I should say, kind of made it feel like the zone was working, because Houston was swinging the ball to Tremont. Tremont was shooting a good shot, a shot that he's made plenty of times in his Houston career, and it missed, right? Similarly, Emmanuel Sharp was 1 of 3 from 3. Sharp shooter, pun somewhat intended, isn't usually that guy either. And so that the two of them go a combined 1 of 6 from 3. That's 6 possessions where Houston's getting a shot at once. And you're thinking, can we make another shot or two out of that at least to kind of help get them out of the zone? And they didn't. Really, really impressed with Jarace Walker down the stretch, but he also didn't shoot 3-ball particularly well. He shot 2 twos that were like at the line. So I guess theoretically, if you add those as percentage, it looks a little bit better. But as far as actual 3-pointers, he's 1 of 4. He's usually more of a 2 of 5 kind of guy. And certainly in the last month he has been. And so, again, you hope for that kind of thing. What I thought was interesting was there was a handful of possessions on the stretch where, with Jarace, they decided to make him more of a creator against the zone. And the way I would do it as a coach, again, Houston-born teacher and coach, would be to find some sort of a high-low set that got him at the nail where he could then do some high-low action. But they did it from the wing and perimeter spot and got him moving in more of a downhill, full-speed locomotive kind of way. And I do have to say, there's a reason they coach Houston and I coach my high school team. It worked. It worked very, very well for them. And it was interesting to watch, like, the way they cleared out that nail spot. The middle of the free throw line is what I'm talking about there, right? The nail in the middle there. They cleared out that nail spot and then got him catching the ball, what we call a 45 cut, where he's running downhill at a 45-degree angle towards the basket as he's catching it. And then he catching the defense off guard. He is that locomotive. He had a nice drop-off. One went off of Juwan Roberts' hands. The other one was a sweet catch for a dunk. But those kinds of actions, I think, were really cool to see him have intentional down the stretch there. I still maintain, to go to the next level of this team, while you have Marcus Sasser shooting the lights out, and while you have Jamal Shead dishing the ball and all the things he does that are so good. I mean, his assist turnover ratio is crazy. The next thing that unlocks this team is creator Jarace Walker in the half court kind of sets. And there are flashes of it for minutes at a time. And this team is a very good basketball team and may be able to win the whole thing without it. But man, oh man, those couple flashes, if he could do that for like 12 minutes, 15 minutes, heaven forbid 40 minutes, oh man, look out. Now, in the third segment, I want to talk some about the program as a whole after this game and brag on my guy Terrence, because I like talking about some about Terrence Arsenault. But I do want to tell you all about our buddies at Built Bar, because frankly, as I'm recording this, I use a late night snack, and Built Bar sounds like a good one. All right, so Built Bar is a delicious treat without all the calories. You got to try it. We just got through the holidays. I know a goal of mine is to eat a little bit healthier this year. Trust me, I'm trying, chill. But if you are like me and you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise on taste, then man, I've got just a thing for you. You got to try Built Bar. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious, you won't think they're good for you. Perfect for your New Year's resolution. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they are healthy. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein in most bars. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering we've been talking about ordering Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, you can run in and grab a 13-bar box with hit flavors like brownie batter and churro. Thank me later. Trust me, as Houston-born teacher and coach, they make for a great breakfast too. All right, so I said in the third segment I want to talk a little bit about just the team as a whole, and there are lots of ways to go about this, and I don't mean to be the sentimental person. I understand, frankly, that before I was alive, again, I was born in 1991, so before I was alive, that the Houston Cougars also had a very dominant basketball team in the 80s, right? Phi Slamma Jamma is a very real part of this history. Elvin Hayes is a very real part of this history. Like, this is in a lot of ways, a school that's been a basketball school in the past. But I want to talk about Joseph Duarte quote because it stuck out to me as like, holy crap, this is really happening. The Duarte tweet, which I'm sure will be part of a story as that you can go read as soon as you're done listening to this. The tweet says, during post-game celebration, Houston coach Kelvin Sampson looked around the Fertitta Center. He cradled the AAC trophy. A net was draped around his neck. The band was playing. Adoring fans were screaming. People began to line up to take selfies with him. This was the vision, he said. And I think that that's so crazy. The thing about this is, like, when Houston hired Sampson from Houston, because he was already in the city, he was just an assistant coach at the Houston Rockets, right? Everyone thought, like, he had a lot of success. Now that we think about it, he had a lot of success at Washington State, and he really did a number at Oklahoma, and he did pretty well at Indiana, and that's a blue blood. Like, Houston produces good basketball players. There's a lot of good high school basketball in Texas, and like, he could put this together. Like that was a thought, right? That was a thought we had in like 2014, 2015 when like things were coming together. It's like, man, he could really do this. And now, as they have the post-game celebration of winning the American Athletic Conference, as they're giving out awards to guys he's recruited like Marcus, right? As they're giving out awards to guys he pulled in transfers like Darius Bowser and Reggie Chaney, guys winning the American Athletic Conference for their fourth time in 5 years and are heading off to be in the Big 12, something that like was somewhat of a pipe dream 10 or 15 years ago, right? As they're doing all of those things, it's like, oh, this was something he saw when he got here, right? He mentions whenever he talks about Houston that he did not necessarily want to leave the NBA. His dad, before his dad passed away, told him, like, you were happier in college, go back to college. You should be coaching college. And so he kind of started like telling his agent, like, hey, I'd be open to do this. I think that's, my dad's a smart guy, and I'd be open to doing this. And that's when the agent says, well, I got a job, right? And bluntly, when he got to Houston, there were some things going really, really well, but it felt a lot more than 8 or 9 years away from this, right? This is a program that was in the Final Four 2 years ago, and frankly, had a competitive Elite Eight game last year while missing 2 of its highest scores with injury, and is right back in the mix at the top of the charts this season, top of all the rankings and all of that this year. That's 3 years of sustained excellence in a row amidst a ton of injuries and a ton of roster turnover and a chaotic landscape. I mean, like the COVID thing and the transfer portal and the changing this and NIL, like it all continues to go. But the vision was championships and winning and cheering and bands playing and taking it all in the Fertitta Center on the last night of, or last home game of the regular season. And it's so cool to see. And there's a great pictures being circulated around. It's on Duarte's Twitter as well. So I don't know who to give credit for it, so I'm not going to post it. But if you go find it, it's just coach sitting there with the trophy under his left arm, or his right arm. I'm looking at it backwards. His grandson on his other shoulder, the hat somewhat cocked sideways on his head because Sampson's cool like that. And that big net that they just cut down around his neck, and the smile on that man's face. I don't know where the season ends. I don't know where the season goes. I have high hopes for what happens. And I think there's a really, like, I really do believe there's a chance it ends 5.6 miles away from campus at NRG, cutting down nets once again. But I do know that one guy does see it and does see where it can go and does see this thing for what it can become. And he's seen it the whole time. And man, it's hard not to root for that guy. We'll talk some more about Terrence later. We'll talk some more about the rest of like this cast of characters, I just want to shout out that Terrence played so well on Thursday night. He's kind of had a roller coaster of a season as a freshman, and Beaumont United's finest, Terrence Arsenault, great game. Amidst some guy, like they needed it too. I know that it's hard to say that when he had just 2 points. It's like, what? He's 1 of 3 from the field. Like, what are you talking about? But like the guy played tremendous defense, was all over the floor. Great game out of Terrence, and so I don't want to leave that out. The other thing I'll say is I'm going to try to also get a Memphis preview out on Saturday. Thank you all so much for listening to the episode today, by the way. I'm going to try and get a Memphis preview out on Saturday for the Memphis game on Sunday, which leads me to my last point here. Then I'll sign off. Some family stuff came up with my wife's family, and so we'll be traveling this weekend a little bit. Get on planes, get on state, and all that kind of stuff. I don't know that I'll be able to see the Memphis game live on Sunday. I know that I interact with a lot of you guys on Twitter with game threads. I'm constantly giving my live thoughts on the game and all that kind of stuff. A couple things I will say that will happen is I will watch the game start to finish before giving out the recap of the game on Monday, and I will watch the game start to finish. I'm going to try to do the best I can without knowing necessarily what happened. I'm sure I'll find out about it, but that said, like we got to go be with my wife's family for a little bit. So I won't be around. I don't think I'll be around computers and TVs and the game on Sunday in the way that I normally am. And so if you're accustomed to interacting with me in that, thank you. I appreciate that. It's a fun way to watch a basketball game. And also we're thinking about my wife's family a little bit. I won't be there, but we'll get it fixed up. I promise. As it is the last regular season game, I guess I keep telling myself part of this too, like, it doesn't even really count that much because Houston's already won the conference and we'll see them in the tournament, right? It's a fun one. It will be a fun one. I'm going to try and get another episode out before we head out of town about just to preview the Memphis matchup round 2. Kendrick Davis should be playing. But if I don't, just please understand that that's the way things go sometimes. There's not a whole lot of things more important than basketball and football, and I do truly believe that escape from reality that sports offer is really, really important sometimes. But this is just one of those times that it is. So thank you. And thank you all so much for making Locked On Cougs your first listen of the day. We appreciate you sitting here and talking about the seniors and the big win and the dream and all those kinds of things. So thank you all for that. If you are looking for a second listen of the day, let me recommend going over and checking out Locked On College Basketball because Andy and Isaac do a great job of recapping all the important games. And the calendar is March, and so all the games are important. So make sure you check that out as well. It is an exciting show. It's a first year of that show as well. It's a new show, and very Cougar friendly. Remember to subscribe, download, leave a comment, tell us what you think, and tell us whatever you think the silent letter in the word sent is. If you find me and talk to me about sent or the Houston Cougar basketball, football, spring practices going on. Baseball just started up. I got a wall of sneakers. Miami can talk about the Rockets, Astros, Texans, whatever. Make sure you find me at Painsworth 512, PAINSWORTH 512 on Twitter, Instagram, and all of your social media handles. I'll be happy to talk to you about all things all the time. I will say my phone will be in my pocket a lot this weekend, so we can talk some if you'd like. Thank you all so much for being Locked On Cougs first listen today. Locked On Cougs, a proud member of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, or in our case, the number 1 team in the country, every day. Go Cougs.